Let's begin with the foundations. Welcome to another lecture. Today we consider Gina Carano, an athlete who helped normalize women's MMA on major broadcasts, an action performer crossing from Soderbergh to Star Wars, and a public figure at the center of 21st century media disputes. I am Professor Alexei. We observe as ever that when sports, cinema, and social platforms intersect, the equations become nonlinear rather quickly.
Hi everyone, I'm Priyanka. I'm excited and a little nervous because this topic blends careers, controversies, and timing. I think we'll try to keep it careful and clear and maybe ask a few simple questions that open bigger doors.
To frame our discussion, Carano's public life comprises three interlocking vectors. First, high visibility competition in mixed martial arts from 2006 to 2009, with a one-off return in 2026. Second, an acting trajectory from Haywire to The Mandalorian. Third, controversies and legal disputes that shaped later opportunities. We'll unpack each in turn. We may think of her as a two-component system, athlete and actor, embedded in a volatile medium called modern media.
Maybe the best place to begin is by asking a simple question. What exactly is MMA? And what are the promotions and terms we need to follow the story?
Mixed martial arts, or MMA, is a full-contact sport combining striking and grappling from multiple disciplines. Elite XC and Strikeforce were major US promotions that in Carano's era put women's bouts on premium TV and arena cards. Strikeforce was later acquired by Zuffa, the then parent company of the UFC. A TKO is a technical knockout, a stoppage by referee or doctor when a fighter cannot intelligently defend. An armbar is a submission attacking the elbow joint via hyperextension. Weight cutting is the acute process of meeting contracted weight, frequently via dehydration and short-term caloric restriction. It improves size leverage on fight night, but carries risk, and in this case, recurring public scrutiny.
Building on that, why does her story still matter now, both for sports and for film?
It's important to understand the stakes. First, women's MMA moved from novelty to main event. Carano's visibility on Showtime and Strikeforce demonstrated broadcast value and audience appetite. Second, action cinema learned to leverage authentic fight movement. Soderbergh's Haywire showcased practical choreography anchored by real athleticism, with voice adjusted in post-production to refine performance. Third, the media sphere, increasingly polarized, used her 2021 social posts as a site of conflict over speech, corporate standards, and employment. Historically, the underestimation of women's drawing power and on-screen physicality was to some extent a misspecification of the model. The data since 2007 have contradicted it.
So yeah, moving on. Can we sketch the core facts before we dive deep?
Let's start with the history. Gina Carano was born in April 1982 in Dallas County, Texas, and was raised in Las Vegas after her parents' divorce. She led a state-title high school basketball team, studied psychology at UNR and UNLV, and crucially, began in Muay Thai, introduced by Kevin Ross, amassing a 12-1-1 record. In Nevada's first sanctioned women's MMA bout, she won in 38 seconds against Leticia Pestova in Las Vegas. She also stopped Rosie Sexton late in round 2 at 4:55. Strengthening early credentials. From 2006 to 2009, competing in Elite XC and Strikeforce, she went 7-1, with notable TV milestones such as the 2007 Julie Kedzie fight on Showtime called Fight of the Night. Elite XC even fashioned a custom women's weight class. However, weigh-ins brought scrutiny, missing weight before Caitlin Young, forfeiting a percentage of her purse, and requiring multiple attempts before making weight for Kelly Cobold, whom she defeated by unanimous decision. This logically leads us to August 2009, Carano versus Chris Cyborg. It was the first time women headlined a major MMA event. Strikeforce created a women's title for 145 pounds with idiosyncratic naming. Carano lost by TKO at 4:59 of round 1 and retired from competition afterward. Parallel to this, she undertook media roles on American Gladiators as Crush, in video games such as Command & Conquer Red Alert 3, and then the decisive 2011 pivot to film with Haywire. Subsequent credits included Fast and Furious 6 in 2013, Deadpool in 2016, and TV work culminating in The Mandalorian, where she played Cara Dune across 2019-2020.
I'm curious about her public stance. She rejected being called the face of women's MMA, right?
Correct. She explicitly deflected sole credit, pointing to a collective of athletes, promoters, and matchmakers. We observe here the difference between media simplifications and the distributed labor that builds a division. Incidentally, a disputed historical footnote. In 2011, a planned Strikeforce fight with Sarah D'Amelio was canceled amid conflicting explanations. The Athletic Commission medically cleared her, yet she was removed for other reasons not clarified in the official record. Moving forward, in February 2021, after social media posts that Lucasfilm characterized as abhorrent, citing denigration based on cultural and religious identities, along with prior COVID-19 mask mocking and voter fraud claims, Carano was no longer employed and was dropped by United Talent Agency. Supporters argued intent as a general warning against turning on one another. Detractors emphasized harmful analogies. She then aligned with the Daily Wire for film projects, eventually releasing Terror on the Prairie in 2022 and appearing in My Son Hunter the same year. In 2024, she filed suit against Lucasfilm and Disney, alleging wrongful dismissal and sex discrimination. Funded by Elon Musk, Disney's motion to dismiss was denied. The case settled in August 2025. In early 2026, she was still stated to be under an old Strikeforce UFC legacy contract with fights remaining. She then returned for a one-off bout under Most Valuable Promotions in May 2026 against Ronda Rousey, losing by armbar in 17 seconds. Final MMA record 7-2. Personally, she married Kevin Ross in August 2022, disclosing it publicly in March 2026.
To shift gears a bit, do you have a personal perspective on her impact, Professor?
In this context, I will be brief. As a teacher who prizes evidence over presumption, I appreciated that the 2007 and 2009 milestones produced data contradicting long-standing biases about women's drawing power and physical storytelling on screen. I also note as a chess player that first movers accept both opportunity and risk. Carano's career shows how pioneering visibility invites outsized scrutiny along with progress. Next, let's explore three big questions. First, historically, what if Carano had defeated Chris Cyborg in 2009? Second, counterfactually, what if Disney and Lucasfilm had not fired her in 2021? Third, presently, how do social media controversies shape careers in our bifurcated media ecosystem? Big question 1. To analyze 2009, we recall the setup. Carano carried crossover interest from American Gladiators and televised MMA. Cyborg brought ferocious pressure fighting at 145 pounds. Strikeforce conferred a title validating the division. Now, hypothetically, suppose Carano had won. We can infer three plausible effects. First, a longer immediate run as a champion could have stabilized the 145-pound narrative with a marketable face already known to non-fans, potentially accelerating broadcaster confidence. Second, the UFC's timeline on embracing women's divisions, later spearheaded by Ronda Rousey at bantamweight, might have been pressured earlier from the featherweight direction. Third, casting momentum from an undefeated aura could have compounded her film leverage circa 2010-2013, perhaps altering which projects reached theatrical scale versus direct-to-video.
I think the next thing we should talk about is the broader ecosystem. If she had won, would other pioneers, like, say, Julie Kedzie or later athletes, have seen faster institutional support? Or is that too optimistic?
It is worth noting that institutions often respond to salient exemplars. One highly visible champion can lower perceived risk premiums for booking more women's bouts. However, division depth still matters. A single node cannot bear a network. So yes, an earlier and stronger flywheel effect is plausible. More dates, better matchmaking, improved weight class standardization. Yet it would still depend on promoter incentives and the contemporaneous talent pool. In simpler terms, a victory could have accelerated adoption, but not replaced the need for a robust bench. Big question 2. Imagine 2021 without the firing. Cara Dune remained an on-screen asset after seasons 1 and 2. Carano had said she initially thought she would be masked, even a Wookiee, but instead appeared visibly, amplifying recognition. Had employment continued, we can model likely arcs, recurring arcs within The Mandalorian, possible spin-off integrations that would leverage her ex-rebel shock trooper profile, and a steadier pipeline of mainstream roles rather than the pivot to ideologically aligned distribution. The absence of the firing would also have removed the proximate cause for the 2024 lawsuit, the 2025 settlement, and the reframing of her career within alternative outlets.
Can we maybe now look at creative effects? Without the controversy, would the franchise storylines have leaned more on her character? Or is that speculation too fragile to be useful?
Theoretically, yes, but with guardrails. We cannot confirm internal writers' rooms. Yet given her established presence across 7 episodes and the audience response, increased utilization is a reasonable projection. What changes is not merely screen time, but ancillary economics. Merchandise vectors, convention appearances, crossovers. In contrast, the actual timeline diverted toward Daily Wire collaborations and later legal proceedings. A different cash flow structure, different audiences, and reduced mainstream optionality. Big question 3. How do social media controversies shape careers today? First, platforms enable instantaneous speech that can be interpreted through multiple lenses. In 2021, critics read her post as equating American conservatives with Jews in Nazi Germany. She later stated her intent was a general warning against being pitted against each other. Second, corporations publish policies, but enforcement inevitably involves context, reputational calculus, and asymmetries that observers often label as inconsistent. Some fans contrasted her case with others in the same franchise. Third, litigation becomes a metaforum. Elon Musk's funding of her 2024 suit exemplifies resource equalization by external patrons. The 2025 settlement underscores that, in practice, Many such disputes resolve without a judicial pronouncement on the merits.
What comes to mind next is narrative formation. How much power do platforms have in shaping the first interpretation people see? And does that lock in employment outcomes before due process even begins?
We observe a three-step dynamic. Step 1, velocity. The initial framing achieves escape velocity if amplified by opinion leaders. Step 2, institutional risk management. Companies respond to anticipated downstream costs. In entertainment, sponsor relations and franchise goodwill are particularly sensitive. Step 3, lock-in. Even if counter-narratives emerge, the opportunity window may have closed. Policy research is needed on clearer thresholds, proportionate remedies, and the timing of reviews. For example, whether temporary suspension with review could substitute for immediate termination in some cases. Clarity reduces the variance of outcomes.
From a different angle, does nostalgia matchmaking, like her 2026 return against Ronda Rousey, change the labor market for retired athletes? Or is it just a short event shock?
Her one-off comeback after a 17-year hiatus illustrates a broader phenomenon. Promotions can monetize legacy star power, but competitive readiness, especially against a submission specialist like Rousey, carries acute downside risk. As a labor market signal, it shows that spectacle demand persists, yet it does not by itself reconstitute a sustainable athletic arc. In conclusion for this question, social media and spectacle economics reshape option sets, but do not remove the constraints of preparation, policy, and public interpretation.
So, I guess that kind of sums it up. Carano's career is a case study in crossover potential and the costs of visibility in a polarized age.
To summarize, we define Gina Carano's multifaceted trajectory. Muay Thai foundation, 7-2 professional MMA record with a pioneering 2009 headliner. Acting work from Haywire to The Mandalorian. The 2021 firing and subsequent legal settlement, and a 2026 one-off return ending by armbar in 17 seconds. We considered three questions: the historical counterfactual of a 2009 victory, the alternate media path without the 2021 termination, and the present mechanics by which social platforms, corporate policies, and litigation shape careers. For those who wish to continue, an adjacent topic is athlete-to-actor transitions in action cinema. How authentic movement and post-production craft can coexist productively.
Thank you for listening, and thank you, Professor. Maybe that's something we can come back to later, especially the policy side.
This concludes our lecture for today. Be well, read closely, and on a final cautionary note, if you must cut weight, please consult competent professionals. Mathematics alone will not save you there.